And now, a bit of romance.
Two girls on a quest to find which rom-com is the best. P.S. I love rom-coms.
Hello, and welcome to P.S. I Love Rom-Coms, a podcast about dancing cheek to cheek and men with chins who are weak and falling in love more and more every week. We're your hosts. I'm Mia.
And I'm Allie. Now, usually in our podcast, Mia and I try to answer the question, which rom-com is the best rom-com of all time? And we try to approach this question with honor, scholarship, and respect. But for the month of March, we're feeling a little crazy and a little athletic. We're feeling a little bit of that March madness.
Although not for college basketball, this is still a rom-com podcast. No, we're feeling like it's time to celebrate one of the true MVP of rom-coms, the one and only Meg Ryan.
Woo-woo! So, in the spirit of March Madness, we are pitting all of Meg Ryan's rom-coms up against each other in a tournament bracket for 3 rounds of rambunctious Ryan to see which Meg Ryan rom-com is the best of all time. Because you guys, it is officially now March Madness! Okay, now we have a very special guest with us today. He is a podcasting titan. He hosts and has hosted the shows Don't Get Me Started, Screw It, We're Just Going to Talk About the Beatles, Screw It, We're Just Going to Talk About Comics, and I Will Write Your Book. And if he were in a rom-com, he'd be a high-powered executive of an online sports journalism empire whose overworked assistant tricks him into going on a date with another high-powered exec in his building. It's a whole Parent Trap situation. You guys, it's the one and only Will Hines!
Oh, hello, everybody. Gosh. What a lovely intro. I feel I'm moved and agape.
Oh my gosh. It's
Thank
the
you.
role. I feel that fits so well, Will. I would absolutely.
That's a great. Let's book it. I'm ready to do it.
Yeah, honestly, book Will on that rom-com, please.
Yeah. I mean, really, being cast as a lead in any scenario is exciting. I never think of myself as the lead in any movie. Or, even when I'm watching, I'm like, oh, I guess I'd be that best friend, or I guess I'd be, Carrie Fisher or whatever.
Oh, same. And as Allie and I say on the podcast all the time, and now we can lope you in, Allie, Will, and I are all actors who are available. So we'll just, we can
for
just
both,
say
best friend roles or leading roles.
roles.
Roles. We'll take them.
Yeah, best friends or lead, top dollar, top booking.
Wacky character or like fall in love leading man or woman.
Exactly.
I'd love to be the person where the audience is being told you're this guy. That'd be really strange for me to
my
be
gosh.
thought of that way.
Doesn't that sound calming? That to be like, hey,
Sometimes I'll try to think about like what kind of movie could I possibly be the lead in, and it would be like I picture like an action. How could I be the lead of an action movie or something? It'd be like, it would have to be like a high school science teacher down on his luck is like cornered by monsters and like sort of like unlikely hero schlub, like a Paul Giamatti situation.
Oh, but I love that. I would watch that show. I would watch that.
The only like rom-coms where it's like a guy in his like 40s is like the lead is like some French movie. Like they'll have like, you could be the lead of a French rom-com when you're like 65 years old or something like that. They put a blazer on you, have you smoking a cigarette, and you can be the romantic lead. But in America, once you're over 35, it's over. You're not being the lead of a rom-com anymore.
Right.
I don't think.
Yes.
And do you feel like that's still true, or is it changing?
I guess once somebody is famous, then like if George Clooney could do it now, obviously he's a very good-looking guy, but and Julia Roberts could do it now. Once you've achieved stardom.
Yeah.
Could Meg Ryan do it now?
I would want to see it, but she's available to be cast in things and people aren't casting her, and it makes us mad. It's a bone we like to pick.
And something we can get into in our lovely month of March Madness. But also, speaking of who we all might be were we to play the hero or heroine in our own rom-com, we like to start off each episode with a little segment called Which Rom-Com Hero Heroine Are You Channeling? Where we equate the experiences we've had this week with a famous rom-com hero or heroine. I can start us off. this week I am channeling Elle Woods from Legally Blonde. I am channeling. Yes. Oh, fuck. Sorry. Are you guys okay?
That was a good screwball pratfall.
Yeah, I definitely would be. I'm definitely like the slapstick person who falls over, but not today. Today, I'm channeling Elle Woods when she is like post breakup with Warner, and she's like she won't come out of her room, and her sorority people are all like, she's in her room, she's watching TV, she's eating chocolate and grilled cheese sandwiches, and like she won't come out of her room. And I am channeling that because after sort of a year of quarantine, pandemic, and being inside, like, you know, I've spent a lot of the last year inside, and my world has shrunk significantly. And I am discovering a new element of my psyche where I am getting very anxious when I have to like leave the house and go farther than I normally go. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's new. I'm now like very like just developing this new sort of tick that I'm sure a lot of people are. I'm sure people who have also spent a lot of last year inside are just developing a little bit of anxiety around getting back out there in society. So I've just experienced that a few times this week. But then I had to go somewhere yesterday and did not feel that. So also, you know, like Elle Woods sort of, you know, she gets out there, she gets her nails done, she makes a friend. So, you know, there's an uplifting.
She goes to law school.
She goes to law school.
You just got to apply for law school.
And the worst part, Allie, is I have thought about it many times over the last year.
Have you really?
Yeah, I'm not going to do it. But there was a low point where I had a career setback this year. And I was like, I live by a law school right now. And I'm like, well, I guess I could go to law school. So honestly, I am so channeling Elle Woods. But I'm not going to law school. I'm staying the course with acting and comedy, and I will persevere like Elle Woods. But that's who I'm channeling. Allie, who are you channeling?
I think I'm channeling Robin Wright's character, Princess Buttercup from The Princess Bride.
Perfect.
Specifically the part when her and Wesley are in the fire swamp. Just because my apartment right now is really resembling a fire swamp. I live in this like very like cute, quirky old building, and I was always like, oh my gosh, like how cute, I love it. Like I've got like such a cool like retro oven and like retro like faucet. It's like very cute, like beautiful tiling. And now I'm realizing, you know, kind of the cons of living in an older building. My sink started doing this thing yesterday where like water started bubbling up from the bottom and started pooling up and started like raising into my sink. And I was like, oh my God, this is disgusting. And then I called a plumber today, and a plumber came, and the whole time while he was like working on my sink, he just kept exclaiming, oh my God. Oh my God. And I was like, it was so terrifying. And I was like, and he's like, there's something in this pipe. And it's like, oh my God. And is it like, what? I don't know what it could be. I only eat spaghetti. It's like, I haven't been putting things down there. And then a bunch of like kind of brownish water like spewed out onto my floor and onto my jute rug. And now my apartment smells like pipe water, kind of like a swamp. And so I lit a bunch of candles. And so, yeah, it's
oh my God.
It's like, oh man, like even if Wesley, you know, was in my apartment and was like, we could live here forever, I'd be like Buttercup, I'd be like, nah, man, let's not live in this fire swamp. But I don't have a Wesley, and I do have to live here. So, but yeah, that's who I'm channeling.
That's a great one.
Can I make a quick prediction for our listeners? I just feel that Hans is going to come to the rescue at some point, which is we've discussed this on the pod, Will, but Hans is Allie's handsome downstairs neighbor who sort of keeps showing up in like a rom-com fashion. So I wouldn't put it past Hans to help you get out of this.
This is his moment.
This is his moment to shine.
I really hope he shines and is like, Allie, I actually am an amateur plumber. Let me fix your sink for you. Oh, and I have an extra jute rug for you as well.
Okay, wait.
That
And
would be great.
Just quick point of clarification. And what is a jute rug? Final question.
I would love, yes. Okay, so it's kind of like a grass, or a rug that's made out of like a natural kind of like hempy grass material. It's kind of like brown and woven. They're really popular this season. So
oh my gosh.
I got this really like pretty one, and now it smells like ass. But so that's me. Will, that's me in a nutshell. Will, who are you channeling this week?
I was thinking about this, getting ready for this episode, and I'm feeling very like just grouchy and surly, and I've been sort of like just more irritated with people. Friends have been wanting to go on hikes, and a friend of mine was like, "Oh, let's go on a hike," and I was like, "Enough with the hikes." I was like, "Can we just sit down?" And he was like, "Jesus, all right, yeah, we can sit down." And I was like, "Oh God, yeah, what's wrong with me?" And so I need like a grouchy heroine, and I think it Julia Stiles' character from 10 Things I Hate About You, Katerina.
Yes.
She's like, I feel like she's sort of like part of her deal is like kind of being fed up with everybody and rolling her eyes at everybody and feeling like she's above it. And there's some comeuppance in her snobbery for that, right? Heath Ledger's kind of like, you're not all that sort of attitude. But
yes.
So I relate to her kind of. I'm walking around the high school of Los Angeles and like, ugh, get over it, you assholes. Enough with the hiking. Jesus Christ. Enough with, so that's where I'm at.
You're at Griffith Park playing, walking up to people, listening to Bare Naked Ladies, and you're blasting Joan Jett Reputation.
That's right. Yeah. You don't get real music, I say to these people.
Wow. Well, what an exceptional poll. That's obvious. That's just a movie that's near and dear to our hearts.
It's a terrific movie. And it's so funny so early. It's so weird so early. Like, I think like rom-coms in general, I mean, like any genre, the ones that are sort of like middle of the pack are, sort of bland and can be fun, but the good ones have their own like distinct sensibilities.
Yeah.
And 10 Things I Hate About You is like truly a strange movie.
Yes.
I mean that as a compliment. Like the characters are each weird in a nice, surprising way. But do you remember the beginning of that movie, how Heath Ledger's getting shown around the school and the best friend is like, all right, here's all the cliques. There's the popular kids. There's the nerds. And then he goes, and there's the cowboys. And there's a group of people with like lassos and doing rope tricks in the courtyard. That's like in minute 1 of the movie.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a nice declaration of, we're going to be a little wacky in this film.
Yeah.
Allison Janney in that movie
is
so freaking good and weird, where she like honestly, like a piece of shit hits her window and she goes, and like, all the students here for shit for brains. And I remember being like, watching it and be like, oh, a principal that swears and writes an erotic, romance novel. What?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the dad making them wear like the pregnancy suit. It's so, yeah. I mean, that's
it's
a movie.
Really funny.
Yeah, like that's like part like what we can really like get into, like why we love rom-coms so much is like there's so much care in that. Like it's structurally as a rom-com, it has all the tropes, but there's so much like tender love and care with all the elements of that film.
I know we're not even talking about that movie this time, but like they're also remaking Taming of the Shrew, right? Like that movie is a
Yes. Yeah, but it's absolutely
and they do
taming.
a good job of like sort of like in the original Taming of the Shrew, it's like this woman's being a bitch. Somebody stop her. And it's like a guy basically starves her and breaks her spirit, and then she falls in love with him.
Oh my God. I don't remember that. I've
he
seen
basically
it.
Like
I don't remember
gives
that.
up. She's like, okay, fine, I'll marry you. And he's like, good, happy ending.
Oh my God.
That play ends with Taming of the Shrew ends with that monologue where Kate basically, after being broken, it's like a good woman puts her hand under her husband's boot, which is basically like a good wife lets her husband step on her. That's what true love is.
Oh God.
There are like romantic sequences in that play that are sort of like the independent woman's. I mean, basically the setup is like pretty rad. Like, there's really good speeches for Kat in Taming of the Shrew. So like the movie 10 Things I Hate About You like kind of was so smart in how they kept the good parts and sort of, and including the dad. Like in the play, the dad is just a control freak. I got to get my daughters married. You know, I look bad because my daughters aren't married.
Yeah.
So I got this hot babe daughter and this bitch. So guess what? The hot babe can't get married until the bitch does. Is like the plot.
Yeah.
And so in the movie, Larry Miller, I think is the guy's name. He's like seeing girls get pregnant so young that he's scared, and that's why he's like, and it's kind
protective.
Of he's a more caring, like warm guy that's why he's a control freak about his daughters.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's been through a trauma where the wife left, right? She abandoned all of them. It's not like even she didn't
die. She
exactly.
Like, left.
Yeah. She just abandoned them all. So
Pretty
it also justifies his like neuroses where he's like, you know,
smart. It's a smart movie. I mean,
it's so good. It's so good. Okay. Well, really quick before we get into the one we're in today, Will, I'm just kind of curious, like, what's your relationship with rom-coms?
I'm not a rom-com guy. I am a shut down, emotionally stunted nerd, permanent nerd boy. Like it's a problem. You know, and I am like nerd taste. You know, I like not just like superhero action movies. I also male characters who are, you know, fall in love with manic pixie dream girls. That's my jam.
Yes, naturally.
I have not updated my tastes for a more enlightened age. I am trapped. I have real dad, middle of the road taste in everything, and so rom-coms, I tend to sleep on them. But
fair.
But so that's my default posture. But then I also do love movies, and if I get won over by a rom-com, I go all the way because I guess my arms are folded at the beginning of every rom-com. I'm like, this is gonna suck, and sometimes that's true. Sometimes a rom-com sucks, but if it's good, I'm like, oh my god, that was incredible. It was about love, and I liked it.
Yes.
So I don't know. I'm a reluctant fan of some rom-com, like 10 Things I Hate About You. I love that movie. Room with a View. I love Room with a View.
Oh my God, Room with a View, so good.
Yeah, it's just, and it's, I think I like it when they're stranger than I expect. Like Room with a View is just more odd than I expected.
Yes, with all those question marks.
It just caught me off guard in a way that I really was entranced by. So, I can be won over, and I think Meg Ryan is a genius. So I'm a fan of Meg.
She is. She is a genius.
She is.
I mean,
She's
she
the
created
MVP.
an archetype and did it better than anybody, and everybody still copies her, basically. And I feel like so many, I was going to say women, but probably people that I know just identify with her, like, persona. Like, yes, that is how I relate to the world.
Oh.
She found it.
100%.
Yeah.
In both of these movies, I identify with the heroines of both the movies today to a like embarrassing degree.
Yes.
Where I am like, oh yeah, these are the not fun parts of me that are absolutely reflected in this character.
Also, I'm sharing Mia's personal business on the podcast.
You can share this,
but
because it's relevant.
Mia texted me the other day saying that someone in her acting class texted her being like, you really remind me of Meg Ryan, which means that through March Madness, we have gone full madness and are now becoming Meg Ryan because we've just been Meg all day, all the time.
It's even worse. Allie's paraphrasing it. She said, you sound exactly like Meg Ryan, which I've already revealed that I subconsciously parrot voices. And like Allie and I watched like 8 Meg Ryan films within like 72 hours.
Oh my God.
And then I went to class and they were like, okay, I've never gotten a Meg Ryan comparison before. And then someone was like, wow, you sound exactly like her.
You sound like you're turning into her.
Yeah, I'm fully broken after this year, but mostly this week.
Well, we've discussed how Mia and I are turning into Meg Ryan. Should we just fully embrace it and just dive into our first film?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, you guys. It's the moment you've all been waiting for. The final round of March Madness. Our first competitor, against all odds, destroyed Joe versus Volcano in the quarterfinals. Did it without blinking an eye, without burning a baguette. And in the semifinals, in an astounding upset, it absolutely crushed Sleepless in Seattle because impossible n'est pas français. Okay, you guys, hold on to your berets because French Kiss has made it to the final round.
Good for French Kiss. I'm surprised.
We were shocked. We were shocked.
Our
But
guests
pleased,
were
shocked.
very upset that they had
They wanted to take
participated
it
in it.
back.
They were like, where did we go wrong?
You're like, what can we do?
I haven't listened to those episodes, but I can sort of. You know what? I'm not. When I first heard that, when you guys told me French Kiss was in the finals, I was like, what? French Kiss? But I watched it yesterday in preparation for this episode, and I can see it. Like, I mean, I guess we're gonna get into it, but like, it's way better than I remembered, and it is like a tour de force for her. Like,
Yes.
she is the
Star.
She gets to strut her stuff more than she does in some other movies. Some other movies might be better, but if you want to see Meg Ryan like pulling out all the stops and like just putting on a show of her like abilities, that movie does it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that comparison. And and I know we'll get into it, but I also think there's also something about them because I was shocked by the upset, but there's also something where it's like, I think the premise of Sleepless in Seattle becomes more insane as time goes on.
Yeah.
And while French Kiss still has like relics that are like, oh, that doesn't quite fit into what we think about now. It's like that her character is, even though she starts out not empowered, she has so much fun and she really gets empowered and in her worth. Whereas Annie from Sleepless in Seattle is like sort of like a passive, like she's still going after what she wants, but it's not with the same fun energy of Kate.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like Kate, I mean, Kate like realizes like she comes into her own, like she gets stronger. She gets a stronger sense of who she is, and it all comes from her. And versus Annie is all about like she thinks she will be complete when she gets to be with Tom Hanks. Versus like Kate is complete when she like realizes how great she is, and I feel like that's a much more modern character arc.
Yes.
Are we allowed to just talk about the movie now? Because the other thing I was no, I mean, that sounded like, I'm so sorry. I see I'm being cat.
No, it was endearing. It was
can we like
so
talk
lovely.
about the film? That's not what I meant. Here's what I want to say. You tell me if this is bad. Like, I was surprised. So I saw French Kiss like when it came out. All right, like I was like 25 or something, and Meg Ryan was like one of the biggest stars in the country, and you just kind of went to see Meg Ryan movies. You just did, and like. And I remember like not digging French Kiss. Like I had like When Harry Met Sally in my memory, Sleepless in Seattle, and it was like a little too cutesy or something. And I just remember not digging it. But when I watched it yesterday, I was like, this movie's pretty good. And like a lot of the conversations between Kevin Kline, Luke, and Meg Ryan, Kate are like funny. They're like, they're on to each other's shit pretty early.
Yes.
To where it's sort of believable. It's not just like they're obviously in love and for some reason they're ignoring it. No, they do irritate each other, but they're also sort of attracted to each other. Like they hit that kind of, oh yeah, this is the couple who's in love, yet I see why they are annoyed by each other.
Yeah.
I was into their conversations, and the whole plot of him using her to smuggle jewelry is the perfect thing that would create mistrust. But also, I don't know. It's a really ingenious script. I was kind of like, this movie's good.
Yeah.
And so I could sort of see why it might be a surprise sleeper in a tournament, in a taste test type of situation, because its individual strengths are pretty formidable, even if the sum total's kind of like a little lame. It's like, I don't know. The story's good. The actors are good. The moments are good. She's putting on a tour de force comedic performance. It's not stupid, maybe it's not all the way into like smart, but it's like not dumb. I was like, I don't know, man, this movie's got moves.
Yeah,
exactly. And
not
I agree.
I agree. And not to be constantly defending our decision to put French Kiss above Sleepless in Seattle, but I'll say it right here. I think that Kate and Luke's relationship is much more realistic than Annie and what's Tom Hanks' character? Sam's relationship. Like that, their relationship is like, oh, this is a magical, flawless relationship that was love at first sight. And it's like, okay, well, I can't relate to that. Versus like two people fighting on a plane, but then also kind of like laughing at each other. It seems like, yes,
Well, they reach a point of honesty with each other sort of at the midway point of the movie. Like she finds out that he's a thief. He finds out that she's scamming to get her insanely bad fiance back. And they've come clean with each other at some point. And the only thing they haven't come clean with is that they're in love with each other, but they haven't admitted it to themselves yet either. So they are being as honest with each other as they are with themselves. So they're friends.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
they are legit on each other's side. Her fiance doesn't know what's going on with her. He doesn't have anybody in his life who knows what's going on with him. So you're rooting. It's real. I don't know. I gotta say, I'm a French Kiss fan now. I can't believe it.
Yeah, I can't. It's such an interesting. Yeah, that's first of all, shocking. I mean, very exciting. Very exciting is sort of like not super into rom-com friend. It's like very exciting to be like, okay, we're coming. Like we've turned Will onto French Kiss, and it's such an interesting idea to compare the chemistry between the two from Sleepless in Seattle and French Kiss, because now that I'm thinking about it, right, and Allie and I have talked about this before, like there's, right, like obviously, you know, Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan are on film like less than 7 minutes together, like in the same scene in that movie. And like we do a lot of work because they have such great chemistry in other movies that we like give them a lot of like leniency. And then there's like some weird elements where there's like, they talk about reincarnation at one point and like how Annie and Sam's deceased wife can both like carve an apple in the same way. And we're sort of like, okay, that's like the points for why they should be together are like a little thin. And then in this movie, what you were saying, Will, about like the way they talk to each other, that I think even early on, there's like an intimacy in like, and that they're almost irritated in the beginning because I feel like they both see each other's shit so clearly. And they start out, we talked about this in Dan's episode, where like, we're like, okay, how do we feel that they talk about each other's like sexual stuff so early? And like, is that okay? But it's almost like they both see each other's sexual stuff and discuss it so early on. And it's like, they both kind of have each other's number in this weird way. That's almost like, you know, what like famed couples therapist and podcast host Esther Perel would say is like sort of the most like intimate, like vulnerable part of you. And they both early on are like, this is your problem with sex. And I'm like, yeah, like that is very intimate and like vulnerable territory.
It's also so smart to have him have an impotence problem. Like he's not just the leading man who is like this kind of flawless prince that's going to save her. He's fucked up. And I mean, for a guy in his character archetype, right? The charming scamp, the thief, con man, flirtatious guy who's giving her advice on sex, to then admit that he can't get it up or whatever is, I don't know, that's like a huge move for the character. For her, and she makes fun of his dick all the time in the film. All the time. It really gives her equal ground in what otherwise might be like, you know, savior guy.
Totally.
They have each other's number in a nice way. Yeah.
I agree. Where those, even the like erectile dysfunction jokes like really worked for me in there, because it felt like there was this intimacy and this friendship and this like, it didn't feel like
for her character to just talk about sex, right? She's not this little prim and proper prude. She's like really comfortable making fun of his dick.
It's like that Eiffel Tower moment where she's like, this reminded me of you, right? And it's just the way she delivers it. It's not cheap. It's not whatever. It's from this place of like intimacy and ribbing that is like, I freaking love that. Okay.
Well, also this is like, the other thing I like about French Kiss is, so how do you cast Meg Ryan as the underdog woman, right? She's like beautiful and funny, but you know, she's the protagonist, so she represents our own insecurities. The other woman is well cast because the other woman is sexy and beautiful. I guess in like different categories than Meg Ryan is attractive. Like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, she's this voluptuous, shapely, sexy French woman. Yeah, you know what? Next to Meg Ryan does kind of look mousy next to her in a way that works for the story. And I don't know, just sometimes it's like, how do you know, Julia Roberts is like, I can't meet a man. It's like, well, yeah, you know what? I think you could. I think you could.
I also think it's like the way that like they have Meg Ryan like crawling on the ground. They have her falling into cake. They have her, you know,
Well, let me just say,
having
you
incredible.
go ahead. I could talk too much. You go ahead and say that.
Oh no,
I have a bone to pick about this.
about her crawling on the ground.
Well, just about rom-coms. When I fold my arms at the beginning of a rom-com, all right, when Will is ready to hate the rom-com, I'm like, well, I can't wait till the pretty girl falls down. Like that always, like pretty girl falls down is like a rom-com trope that I hate. I'm like, you're still beautiful. Like you're still a beautiful, like Drew Barrymore falls down. It's like, you're still fucking Drew Barrymore. Like you are a cute, attractive, funny person. Like you're not going to have, you have lost nothing by this collapse.
Yeah,
you are not humiliated. Like, I mean, I don't know. This is weird of me to say. I'm just like, I don't buy it.
No,
but like,
that's
I feel like attractive actresses are like, do I fall down in the film? They're like, no. Well, I got to fall down. I got to be relatable.
Yeah, I think Will, you're speaking to a phenomenon of this specific genre, which is so trope heavy, which is that it's like a chicken or the egg thing with tropes sometimes, where it's like, are you plucking these tropes and applying them to like in a formulaic way without heart and soul? That's an attempt, right, to do what you're saying, right? To make
there's the shallow version and the earned version.
Exactly.
Yes,
to make like an invulnerably attractive woman seem relatable. Or like we saw this in Kate and Meg Ryan's film, Kate and Leopold. At one point she falls over and we all were like, oh, like come on. Yeah. And then there's and then there's an earned version. Yeah. And so that comes from heart and soul and is like a part of the character. And I think
like a much more relatable thing about French Kiss, I think, rather than like, and I'm going to say it meanly, pretty girl fall down, is like pretty girl's been like treated badly and she's begging him back. Like that is falling down emotionally. Like that is like embarrassing. Like, you know, when she's sitting in the hotel lobby and then she sees her guy with another woman, I like really felt for her. I felt like it was so deeply, I don't know, deeply sad.
Yeah.
For that, what she must feel like. If you're in love with somebody, you see them with somebody else, it's like heartbreaking. And so it doesn't matter if you look like Meg Ryan or if you're a movie star. That like, I mean, I think that's why people feel for Jennifer Aniston. It's like, oh, Brad Pitt left you for Angelina Jolie. Like that's gotta sting. And also we still love you, but we also can imagine that ripped you apart probably. Like, I think that's what makes Jennifer Aniston the underdog in our like popular consciousness. Even though she's Jennifer Aniston, like a you know, super rich and famous person who succeeded in her career in every way. I don't need pretty girl to fall down into a cake. I need her to like go through something emotionally. But this movie, French Kiss, does that also. So I like this movie. But I don't know. Pretty girl fall down bothers me.
I so understand where you're coming from on this point, because I do hate to see the tropes applied like carelessly. You know, that seems like someone was like, we have to have these. And I don't care, right? There's an element of applying them that's like, I don't care. She falls down. And
right.
I think you're right. That's interesting that there is so much emotional like evidence of that already happening. Like I love the moment where she's on the phone with her ex future sister-in-law and she's like, tell mom. And the sister-in-law is like, should you be calling her that? And it is truly humiliating. It's like, what are you doing?
Mean.
Yeah.
But it also it's very funny.
Yes. It's like, and it's true.
And
it's like
that
you
same
shouldn't.
conversation, the sister's like, they're getting married next week. We weren't even invited. I mean, not that I would have gone.
Yeah. It's like, it's so good. And so, so then the question here becomes, where do we all come down on Pretty Girl Falls Down? Is it earned, or is it, is it a slapstick
in French
trope,
Kiss?
Allie?
I think it is not earned. I think it's like forced. But I'll tell you moments of physical comedy that I do love.
Lactose intolerance.
Lactose intolerance is super funny. When she picks up the money off the ground, she's like, I don't want your money, and then he leaves, and she kind of like scampers around the corner to get it. And then also, right before Pretty Girl falls down, Pretty Girl is like spying on him around the statue. And then a waiter sees her hiding behind the statue, and she sort of like stands up and then just like pats the statue as if that's what she was over there for. And it's really, really good. Like she's obviously a great comedic actor. Like there's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But so I like the other physical move she has in this film. Or when she does it, she misses the Eiffel Tower every time. That's like really funny, I think.
Oh, that's a nice runner. I like that.
What I'll say about Pretty Girl Falls Down is that it just it shows off her ability to also do physical comedy. And I would say I prefer her crawling than the falling down. Like I could take or leave the falling down, but her like crawling on the ground amongst the bushes and like she crawls like a little creepy little mouse, and it's so funny. And it just shows off like that, you know, she can do it all. She can do the funny wordplay. She can do the funny impressions where she does that really good impression of Luke where she goes, "You make my eyes twitch." And it's like, my God. And so like, did we need her falling down? No. But like, she just, you know, being the comedian goddess that she is, she's like, I can do it all. I can, all the tricks, I can do them. So I'm a fan of her falling down.
Yeah. I come down with Allie in that the moment I think of is not the fall, but it's the crawling with the cake all over her face. And I like it because this character has such low self-worth in the beginning. And it's like confusing and somewhat upsetting to see, right? Where you go, oh, is this what you think of women in the time that you wrote this script? But I like that moment because it's like a physical manifestation of her like lack of self-respect. She's like in Paris. She's been left. She just followed them to multiple locations around France and then is now crawling covered in cake to like escape this humiliation that she's created for herself. So I agree that it's like, do I need the fall? No, I'll take it to get to the crawl moment. And again, little Mia, like little childhood Mia, loves when you see a big cart of cake being rolled in. It's like a gun in a Chekhov play. It's like, oh my God, she's hiding and there's a big tray of cake. And I'm like, what's gonna happen with the cakes? So I wouldn't trade that excitement that I get when I see the cakes come in and I go, oh my God, there's cake. But I fully respect. I think it's like there is a lot to distrust, Will, and I think you've been done dirty by a lot of films. So I don't fault you for not having the trust.
And that's a good
these tropes.
And also that like maybe like lesser actresses who maybe aren't as strong comedically. You know, they're like, let me fall, like let me, you know, have a pratfall because, you know, falling equals comedy. So it's kind of like an easy joke that a lot of people are like, oh, I can do that.
She was really good at it. I mean, she's great. I just I don't know.
I fully agree. And
it's like walking away from an explosion in slow motion in an action film. Like I just sort of laugh at it now.
Yes. Where you see it so much.
Like, you know, like he sets the dynamite, turns around, walks away, slow motion, explosion. It's like, come on, dude. You would have watched.
Yes. No. In our normal episodes, we go through all the tropes that we see and can
I'm
sort
sure
of
you guys,
and can sort of suss out,
pick them apart,
see what we liked.
Here's a Meg Ryan move that she does great in everything, but it's really used well in French Kiss and in Harry Met Sally and I didn't realize it until I watched French Kiss yesterday. You guys probably have noticed this, I'm sure, but like that a fun way to show somebody being attracted to someone is to be offended by something that they said or whatever. To like take offense is a way of showing that you're interested. Because in both Harry Met Sally and French Kiss, I actually think it's better in French Kiss. He's sitting next to her on a plane, and and Kevin Kline is like, "Oh, I can see you don't have enough fun in life. Like you're too rigid." And she's like, she's insulted. Like she furrows her brush. She goes, "What are you talking about? What do you mean by that? I'm not like that." And it lets us know that she does worry that is true about herself. Yeah. But it's also that it retroactively makes Kevin Kline appear to be rakish.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like he could have said that. I could have said it. You know what I mean? Like a non-leading man type of person could have said it. And if Meg Ryan is the one who's like, what? What do you mean by that? Suddenly you look interesting. You look like you're funny and sharp and you know how to push people's buttons. But really, she's just good at doing the performance of having your button pushed.
Yes.
Totally.
So, and she does it in Harry Met Sally too. She makes Billy Crystal look like this sort of insightful, dark and cynical person. But I was like, no, it's just that it's her reaction that makes it good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I read an interview with Humphrey Bogart that was like, how do you act so romantic when you're not really the classic good looks? And he's like, oh yeah, I have a secret. Have Ingrid Bergman be the romantic lead and have her look at you. And then the audience is like, oh, you must be romantic. And it's like, no, it's just the movie has Ingrid Bergman as the person who's in love with me.
Wow.
That's
And there's something
incredible.
about Meg Ryan acting insulted makes you look like you're funny and sharp, but you don't have to be. She just knows how to do it. Like she receives it.
You're
Wow.
so right. Because
So
now
that's
that
like
you've
one of
said
her
that,
superpowers. It's like, because I remember watching Harry Met Sally and French Kiss and wishing I was as funny as Billy Crystal or wishing I was as charming as Kevin Kline. But I was like, maybe they're not so funny or charming. It's just that anybody who's getting that reaction at a Meg Ryan looks funny, you know? So I think that's like
Yeah.
her superpower is like the, what? What do you mean by that? That's not true. It's like, ooh, how does she strikes that tone so perfectly. So I don't know what the word is for that move.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Just that, like,
It's-
her reaction. What have you heard this me in an acting class? All of acting is reacting, and that like her,
Yes.
it's something that an acting teacher would, you know,
One of those things
needle
they tell
point.
you and you go, I'll never know how to act. But yes. Yeah.
But yeah, wow, that she's just like, I mean, what a
Something like,
compliment that like, you know, that her acting makes other people acting look better or make other people's job easy.
I mean, I'll say that if you identify as a funny person and you have a crush on somebody, one thing you try to do, especially when you're younger, is to make fun of them. You're like, oh, this will work. Like, I'm going to try to burst their bubble. You know, that'll be really charming of me. And of course, a lot of the time it's not. It's rude or self-centered or stupid or something. But when somebody enjoys the ribbing and sort of laughs, it is such a compliment. And sort of like watching Harry Met Sally and French Kiss, I'm like, oh, this is where I learned that being an asshole is charming. And it's not, but it's like, oh, but I got entrapped. Like I am not as charming as Kevin Kline if I'm like, oh, you know what? You look like you're rigid and uptight or something like that.
Yeah. That's such an amazing observation. Because now that you've said it, I can't stop seeing it in my brain of recalling both films.
It's a big plot point in both movies. She, very late in the movie, is still defending herself against things that were said to her in the initial conversation with these people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
Like
like,
the
so you
yeah.
would do anything for this land? You'd get on your knees and beg? So you're not so different than me. It's like, wow, you remember that from conversation number 1.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh my God. We've said that about When Harry Met Sally, that one. Oh, sorry, I won't burn it till we get there, but I'll say this one thing, which is that we did say that like one of the things we noticed upon the rewatch of When Harry Met Sally is that her and Harry, but definitely her, like they remembered so much about that first conversation. You know, that they
Yeah.
both were like, oh, this relationship doesn't matter to me. Like, I don't care. But then through the decades, they were like, here's one thing you said to me 20 years ago in that car
Yeah.
ride that has stuck with me. And I have a bone to pick.
Yeah.
I
I have a bone to pick. That's like the Meg Ryan move.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
I have a
the
bone
Meg
to pick
Ryan-
as a way of telling somebody I like you.
Oh, I love it.
Yes.
That makes me so happy. Okay. Well, guys, it's time to blow our. Oh wait, no, not yet. Yes.
No, I think
All right,
yes.
guys.
Yes.
Yes, it's time to blow our whistles, make some tough calls, and award some points to French Kiss. Now, because this is the final round, we are not only going to be awarding points based on the previous March Madness rulebook, but we are also going to be adding some additional rules as well. Allie, you want to quickly go over the scoring system and the new rules?
Yes, would be happy to. So here are the official March Madness rules. 0 to 10 points can be awarded to the movie for the quality of chemistry between Meg Ryan and her fellow romantic lead. 0 to 10 points can be awarded to the movie for the quality of Meg Ryan's humor. 0 to 5 points can be awarded to any hairstyle Meg Ryan showcases. 1 point will be awarded every time Meg Ryan walks with spunk. 1 point will be awarded every time Meg Ryan wears an iconic outfit. 2 points will be awarded every time Meg Ryan showcases a quirk. Note, the same quirk can receive points every time that it is showcased. 1 point will be awarded every time Meg Ryan crinkles her brow. 2 points will be awarded every time Meg Ryan works in print media. 2 points will be awarded every time Meg Ryan is mean and then feels bad about it. At any time, PS I Love Romcoms and their guests can create a new March Madness rule and award points at their own discretion. And then we have new categories for the final round and from the semifinal round. We can also rate this movie 0 to 10 points based on its staying power, 0 to 10 points based on its quotability, 0 to 10 points based on its critical acclaim, 0 to 10 points for rewatch ability, 0 to 10 points if this film is a good Meg Bassador, meaning that if aliens came to this earth, this film would paint Meg Ryan in a good light, and 0 to 20 points for which movie Meg Ryan would pick as her favorite. So that was a lot of rules, but this is a really serious decision that we need to make today.
Yes.
So we will definitely walk you through these rules again. But just for our listeners, me and I have rated from the semifinal round when Harry Met Sally. Oh, no, sorry. In the semifinal round, me and I rated French Kiss we gave it a total of 252 points.
Yeah.
A lot of points.
Yeah.
But Will, let's dive into your points and how you rated this film. Were there any moments in this movie where you'd give 2 points for every time Meg Ryan is mean and then feels bad about it?
French Kiss. She doesn't feel too bad about it too much.
Yeah.
She's kind of hard on him, and I'm gonna Mike. Not really. I mean, she's. I know this. She's soft to him when he's at the vineyard. She feels bad about that. But my first instinct is she's not really ever that nice about it. She doesn't have those like I should be nicer. It's way more in Harry Met Sally.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say that happens once. So what's the points? I'm gonna give her 2 points for one time.
Great.
Perfect. 2 points will be awarded every time Meg Ryan works in print media.
She does not work in print media, so that doesn't happen.
Correct.
Yeah, correct. Good call. 1 point will be awarded every time Meg Ryan crinkles her brow. Did you see any?
So on the plane, I remember it twice.
Mm-hmm.
She does it in the hotel with the con man. She does it when they're shopping. 1, 2, 3, 4. She does it on the train. 5. I'm going to say 10 times.
Excellent.
2 points will be awarded every time Meg Ryan showcases a quirk. Were there any quirks that you're like, wow, so quirky?
Yeah. She's like, she's got her like fussy thing down.
Yeah.
She's got the fear of flying. That's almost a trauma. But I'll call it a quirk. So she's trauma, fussiness. I got to have it my way. That's 2. The being defensive that she is sexy, defensive about her sexiness. I'll count that as a quirk.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's cute when she does it. I guess so I'm gonna count
It is.
And I'll just say 7 times. She's pretty quirkful in French Kiss.
Amazing. So total
Excellent.
score of 14.
That's my
perfect.
points.
Yes, 7 times 2, 14. Perfect. Okay, so 1 point will be awarded every time Meg Ryan wears an iconic outfit. Were there any outfits that you're like, yes?
Okay, I am pretty fashion dumb, but the big reveal of the dress when Kevin Kline is blown away, I'll count that as 1.
Yeah.
And I can't think of one, but I'm going to throw in just one of her like pre-falling in love with Kevin Kline, sort of like just prim and proper. Nice Miss Nice when she walks into the hotel and she's got a horizontal striped shirt. I'll count that as 1 too. So I'm gonna give her 2.
Yes, Will.
Yes.
Yes. The horizontal boat neck shirt. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's
it's so
2.
good. Two,
That's amazing.
perfect. At one point every time Meg Ryan walks with spunk, were there any times where you're like, ooh, so spunky?
Yes. After she has first sat down with Charlie and Juliet and like rubs their faces in her contentment, she's like strutting her stuff after that.
Yes.
She walks with Spunk. She's doing a lot of spunk walking when she's walking around the vineyard and she's seeing Kevin Kline be uncomfortable and she's like just totally charming up her relatives. There's some kind of spunk walk in there. And she must do it in the hotel earlier, even though she's like frantic looking. Yeah, when she walks up to the concierge and she's already knows that this guy's an asshole and she rings the bell with like, I'll count that as one too. I'm going to give 3 spunk walks.
3 spunk walks.
Perfect.
I'm sure there's more, but I can only remember 3.
And then
that's great.
0 to 5 points will be awarded to any hairstyle Meg Ryan showcases. Were there any hairstyles that you're like, or how would you rate her hairstyle in this movie?
I'll say 3. I feel like there's harried Meg Ryan in the early bit and then glammed up for the dinner and then sort of comfortable in herself at the end. I'll give her 3 hairstyles. It's not as pronounced as Harry Met Sally, but I feel like there's 3.
Fair.
And then 0 to 10 points will be awarded to the movie based on the quality of Meg Ryan's humor. So
High.
What
is the highest I can give?
10 points.
10 points. She's absolute. She's showing all the moves in French Kiss.
Yes.
And then
verbal,
0
physical, emotional. Yeah, she carries the movie. Easy.
Yes. And then 0 to 10 points can be awarded to the movie for the quality of chemistry between Meg Ryan and her fellow romantic lead. So
also high, very high. I can't quite give it maximum because I think there's other movies where she's a little bit better. Because he's a little bit, the accent bumps me a little. He sounds a little clownish to me.
Yeah.
What's the maximum points?
10.
I'm gonna say 8.
Nice. Excellent.
Like very strong for sure.
And then with this movie, what would you say its staying power is? You can give it 0 to 10 points.
You know what? I think this movie is aged better. I think the charmingness outweighs the kind of dumbness of it. I think I'm going to give it 7.
Great.
And there's not any singular like, oof, that really hurts. There's not like a single problematic thing that like sinks it, which sometimes happens with charming movies, but
yes,
it's got none of those. I'm going to say 7. I think it holds up.
Great.
Awesome. And then quotability. How quotable do you think this movie is?
Oh, interesting. Not too much. There's things like lactose intolerant, and it's funny. I remember physical things more than like verbal things, like
That's
the Eiffel Tower drooping, or or like patting the statue. So I'm going to say 4. I don't think it's super quotable.
Absolutely fair.
I could not have said any quotes from it before I saw it again. Whereas Harry Met Sally, I can think of like 15.
I mean,
without even breaking a sweat.
Yeah.
Totally.
And then critical acclaim. Out of 10.
It's pretty low. Yeah, it's 2. I think 2. Like it's not regarded critically well.
No, it's not respected.
No. It is not available.
I think it's underrated, but low.
Yeah, but it's rated low.
2.
And then these next 3, we all can throw in some points. Rewatchability. How easy is this movie to rewatch?
I think high. This would be an easy watch. I'm going to say 6.
Great.
Yeah, I'll Mia rewatchability.
Okay, rewatchability. Do I want to rewatch this? I do. I definitely want to rewatch it. I know there are other films that I won't name yet that I would rewatch more. But it's still, I want to rewatch it. Yeah, so I'll give it a 7. I'll give it a 7 for rewatchability.
I feel like it's the movie, if you find it on, you keep it on sort of film.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I don't like put it on, but it's like, oh, there it is. I'll watch the rest of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would give it an 8 because I've seen this movie outside of March Madness. I had already rewatched it once this year. So I had watched it. That's what I watched on New Year's Eve. So I rewatched it then. I have a DVD copy of it too, which is why I think I rewatch it a lot. And I don't own many DVDs, and this is one that I own.
Yes.
So I give it an 8 because I have a DVD of it. And then
Absolutely.
Meg Bassiter. Do we feel like 0 to 10 points? How well do we think this movie represents Meg?
10.
Yeah.
It's a showcase for her, I think.
Yeah. I'm going to go 10 as well, because something that I see in this, that even though a lot of people would say, I would say, right, that When Harry Met Sally is like her most seminal work, that like this does encapsulate a new, like, Meg Ryan's like full range. That's like,
I mean, I would give it
fantastic.
10 to Harry Met Sally also. Like, she's perfect in both these movies.
Exactly. Yeah. And in different ways. Yeah. So I think this is a showcase of, she goes from meek to empowered to like, she can barb someone. She can be desperate. I mean, it's a tour de Meg.
Yeah.
Tour de Meg. And I also give it a big old 10.
Yes.
She's so good in this. And also it's good. I brought this up before. She's a producer on it. So it's like it's her as both in front of and behind camera as a leading lady. And then which one do you think what's this last one? Which one Meg would pick?
It's like, how proud is Meg of this?
Yeah, how proud of this movie do we think Meg Ryan is? 0 to 20 points.
I think I think the only thing she has to be unproud of is that it didn't like hit harder. It didn't like become iconic, and she has other iconic movies. That's the only shortcoming, because she's great in this. I would say 15. I feel like if somebody said to her, "Hey, I saw French Kiss," she's thinking, "Yeah, I look good in that movie."
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that I do think that, they're like those elements, that element of it not being sort of well regarded and not available in any way, shape, or form, except for DVD right now. So I'm going to give it 17 for that. Allie is having technical difficulty, but she messaged me that she would give it an 18 because she also put her own talent and money in here, which is on the line as well. Which
it would make sense to me that she'd be really proud of it. She's funny in it. It's a good movie. It works. Yeah, the only shortcoming is that for whatever reason, it didn't hit as hard as some of her other big films. It still hit pretty hard. I mean, I remember this being a big movie, but like just compared to her like home runs.
Yeah, well, it's interesting that you say that this one didn't hit as hard, Will, because this movie actually grossed $101 million in the box office.
So
and
then I'm an idiot.
No. But When Harry Met Sally grossed $92.8 million. So it's just interesting. Oh, wow. Financially, it did, pretty well, but for some reason it has kind of gotten lost in the.
Yeah, I feel like it's not thought of as much. You know, I feel like.
Yeah.
Harry Met Sally, Sleepless in Seattle, and You've Got Mail are the first 3 Meg Ryan rom-coms that I just like think of.
Yeah.
And then even like Joe versus the Volcano, which is not big in any way. It's like quirky and strange. And I think of that one before I think of this one.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Okay, the points are in, but before we announce the final tally, let's introduce our second competitor. If French Kiss is our underdog, then this next film is our March Madness darling. This film wiped the floor with its competitor Kate and Leopold and sent the beloved You've Got Mail straight to the spam folder. This film will have you writing up 9 extra floors just to talk to it. You guys, it's the iconic When Harry Met Sally. Woo-hoo! Here are the stats. When Harry Met Sally came out in 1989. It was written by Nora Ephron and directed by Rob Reiner. It grossed $92.8 million at the box office. In the film, recent college graduates Harry Burns, played by Billy Crystal, and Sally Albright, Meg Ryan, take a road trip from Chicago to New York, during which they argue about whether men and women can ever truly be platonic friends. 10 years later, they meet again at a bookstore and test out their theory by attempting to stay friends without sex becoming an issue between them. However, they eventually fall in love and do the nasty. All right. Do we like what we saw on the court? What are our thoughts on this film? Will, what's your history with the film, and how'd you feel about it this time?
Let's see. I was 19 when it came out. I saw it in the theaters. Everybody saw it. I remember just loving it. And I've always loved it. And I've probably seen it like 12 times. And I think it's just terrific. And like, it's one of those movies where every part of it is great. The script is great. It looks good. The cast is good. It's quotable. It's sweet. I don't know. It's really special. It's like, it's one of the big ones for me. It's like one of capital M movies that I think about. Created an archetype. I mean, it definitely made Meg Ryan a superstar and a persona that if she's almost like a vocabulary word. You're like a Meg Ryan type. You're probably talking about this movie. It weirdly made Billy Crystal a leading man, which is even more of a feat. This guy who normally plays like comedic characters and side characters is a believable romantic lead. Again, I think just because Meg Ryan is the person falling in love with him, but he's also great at his job in this film.
Yeah.
Everybody brought their A game, right? It's one of Nora Ephron is the star, right? Like the jokes in this movie are so perfect. Angus and Rob Reiner. I mean, it's just everybody. Everybody crushed it. It is just a weird synergy of perfect film, and I still love it, and I still think it's like it holds up, and every character's good. Carrie Fisher and Bruno Kirby are great characters.
So good.
There's surprising moments of sweetness between people you wouldn't expect. It also like was the beginning. I could talk forever about it. It's the beginning of New York in movies and TV shows that sort of kept going through Seinfeld and Friends. Like there was a while where just New York was the star of every movie and TV show. And I think it started with this. Like romanticizing this yuppie, rich Manhattan lifestyle, and you're watching it as if it's normal and you relate to it, even though these are impossibly privileged people. It is sort of presented as the norm and you accept it. And up until the Friends apartment, we all were just under a spell of like, oh yeah, that's what you're like in your 20s. You move to Manhattan and rent a loft in Tribeca and you pick out a great rug and you're all just hanging out with your attractive friends. And it wasn't until like the year 2000 where we were like, oh, wait a minute, that's insane. And no one does that. But it kind of humanized rich New York. Not that that's like noble, but that was a phenomenon that like happened.
Totally.
I don't know. It's a huge, huge mammoth movie, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a rom-com that guys like too. Guys would go see this.
Yeah.
It's all right. What do you guys think? What's your take?
Well, I agree with what you said, Will, about this is a movie where like everyone is bringing their A game. Like everyone is putting their heart and soul into this movie. You hear about, I mean, like the example we've talked about on this podcast is the infamous, diner scene, the I'll have what she's having scene. And here's a brilliant scene written by Nora Ephron. And then Meg Ryan was like pitched on to it and was like, to use an improv term, yes. And what if we're talking about women faking orgasms. What if I actually faked an orgasm? So she pitched that bit of her act out. And then Billy Crystal pitched the bit of like, what if we had a diner say, I'll have what she's having kind of bit. And then Rob Reiner pitched in and had his mother, say that line. And so it's just like, 4 really talented comedians like being collaborative together and really just giving this movie their all. And that's what makes it so quotable, so special, so nuanced. So yeah, I love this movie.
Yeah. It's pretty phenomenal.
I completely agree. I mean, this is obviously a true gem of the genre, right? It lends credibility to a genre that, for unreasonable reasons and reasonable ones, is sort of not always respected, right? There are reasons for that, good and bad. This is one that this is a film that makes it so you cannot definitively dismiss the rom-com genre. Because of its universal appeal and staying power. And for me personally, right, I grew up watching this movie and I watch it every year, more than once a year, like without fault. Like I can't, and I'm sick of it, which is crazy. And I think that lends to like the true genius of the script, where it's like the way it's set up, where it is multiple vignettes set years apart, intercut by small vignettes of other couples. I think the organization of the film, the way the story is told, is in such a way that that my brain is like never satisfied, always never sure what's coming next. And I am like always delighted by it. And I think it's a film that you continue to notice new things about every single time you watch it. Yeah. And I think for me also something that is like very meaningful and something I so appreciate about Jane Austen, and when it's when you can connect to a piece of work that is not from the modern time, but the messaging and themes is so poignant and still true. And I know that we've talked about before that it's like, yes, the gendered nature of this film, like that's no longer the question on everyone's mind, right? We have certainly moved away. And sure, you could say are people who are attracted to each other, could they ever be friends? And that is more the question we would ask now. But in terms of like rom-coms I watched when I was a kid that shaped my view of the world that were wrong, right? Like we talk about in French Kiss, I was like, okay, I'm going to be cavorting with thieves with this isn't as fair because it's fantasy. Princess Bride, I was like, okay, I'm going to be encountering quicksand. Or in like, what's the Sandra Bullock one with the train we always make fun of, While You Were Sleeping, where it's like, okay, you can like say you're engaged to someone in a coma, right? There's like certain rom-coms that like really warped my sense of the worldview that when I became a grown-up, I was like, wow, that was a crazy sort of like setting for reality to set my expectations. But this film, it's so human and so enduring and so reflective of real friendship and real relationships that I think it's so meaningful because of that, and has like the same staying power that when you read Pride and Prejudice and you go, wow, that's still applicable to me today. And then you are able to feel connected as from the collective human conscious and art, and that it speaks to what you feel now today is so cool. This movie's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like whenever stories touch upon like a universal truth, then they do become timeless. And Jane Austen, did it with P&P, Pride and Prejudice, and Nora Ephron did it with HMS, Harry Met Sally. Yeah, agree with you there, Mia.
I mean,
it's a heck of a trick to like tackle something that from 100 miles away seems very cliche. It's like men and women can't be friends. It's like, really? That's your hot take? That just sounds like something that every hacky stand-up comedian has done a million hours on. But then the details are so good and the specifics are so charming. And there's a couple of like surprising turns in it when I rewatched it. That like it transcends whatever might be cliche about this. Yeah. And also the segments with the old couples is like, I think that adds like 20% to the movie. Like it's so huge of how that sets your expectations of this sort of like homage to falling in love. I don't know. It's so ingenious. I can't believe that it wasn't ever done before. Whenever I'm thinking of the movie casually, I think of Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan. Then I put the movie on. It opens with an old couple. I'm like, oh, right. This whole thing. These things are great.
And then the end when they come back around and are one of the vignettes. I'm always surprised by that. Yeah. And I'm like, it's so funny. And also that's unusual for the genre too, because we see the couple post-wedding, post-union. And I think it's great.
Also, I think like what like makes this film magical, and like you said, Will, it could feel, cliche, but it feels nuanced, and is because these like the stories that the couples tell in the vignettes are real stories. They are told by actors in the vignettes, but those are real stories that Nora and Rob collected. And then the fact that like basically Harry Burns is Rob Reiner and Sally Albright is Nora Ephron. Like that their relationship is based off of this real friendship of two people who are so funny and charming, Nora and Rob. And what I love about this is I feel like I get to, like, I'm friends with them. Like, it feels like, oh, I'm just listening to my two friends. Like, I'm the really quiet third friend that's just walking behind them, hearing their funny, like, conversations and their funny one-upping each other. And but I think that's why this movie feels nuanced, is because it's based on two really cool, awesome, funny people.
I feel the same way. And there's also an element where it's like, there is something magical about this movie, and that when we talk about this, where I get woo-woo occasionally in terms of like how a movie came together, when you're like, this is like art coming together, like meant to be with us. Just in terms of you being like, she is Nora Ephron, he is Rob Reiner. There is this like just magical element of the movie, the way it came together and how collaborative it was, that if it didn't have any of like those four people specifically and the cast in general, it wouldn't have been this movie, right? Because of how much Meg Ryan added to it, how much Billy Crystal added to it, how collaborative it was. The famous scene where he's doing "I will have pepper on my popper gosh," and that it's improvised, and you see her looking off camera to Rob Reiner, who tells her to look back at Billy Crystal. And it's just like one of those things that you're just like, I can't believe we got so lucky that this all came together and was that collaborative and that successful.
I think like one sign of a great movie, and it's super true for Harry Met Sally, is like it is both. I wish I knew an easier way to say this. It is both archetypical and specific at the same time. So like the opening scene, or not opening scene, the opening sequence of Harry and Sally driving from Chicago, they are both cartoon characters that are hitting us over our heads with the game of the character. She's picky, she's rigid. He is, whatever, like
morbid,
nihilistic and gross.
Yeah, cynical and kind of like sex obsessed. Kind of gross. Every single time he says anything, he's insensitive and rude. Every single time she says anything, she's uptight and like proper, right? So in a way, that's what I mean by archetypical. It's like, okay, this is his thing, this is her thing. But also the specifics are unique. Like the fact that he says grape, like the way he says grape and his mouth is like full of a grape and then he spits on the window is just like funny. Like the physicality of that's funny. The rhythm of him spitting is funny. And then like the way she like, it's the introduction of her like fussy ordering that we see in the diner.
Yeah.
Yes.
She's so funny when she does it. It's just, she looks up, she looks down, she's perky. She's like a little self-satisfied. I mean, it is the arrival of a perfect comedic character. And even him in the movie is like staring at her in wonder. And I feel like I'm watching like Harpo Marx show up for the first time. Just like, oh, we're all going to be every comedian's going to be copying this.
Yeah.
And it's specific. So it's like, and so many scenes in this movie are both simple and specific at the same time. And it's amazing. It is really something else.
And what's cool too is I feel like you're right, Will. They start off with these like almost like caricatures,
almost broad,
broad.
Mm-hmm.
But then as you see them grow older in the movie, they become less of what they were, and changed. Like she still has her picky ordering and is weird with like the envelopes and stuff, but like you see her, I don't know, loosen up when she sings Surrey with a fringe on top, and like you see them change. And I mean, I think that's what's so genius about the structure of the movie is usually in movies like so much happens in such a short amount of time, and you're kind of like, it almost seems unbelievable that a character could change this much in like a week. But when you cover like the span of like 15 years, it's more believable that these characters would over time change each other, and it's more realistic. And
well, the moment that really, I'm sorry, Allie, I'm so excited. Did I just cut you off?
No. I was trailing. I was going, and
we end speaking with please. No, please.
Well, the moment that really struck me, sort of going from broad to specific, was when I rewatched it. And again, I've seen it a bunch, but when I was sort of purposefully watching it, was when she runs into him in the bookstore and he's gotten divorced.
Yeah.
And she's just broken up with somebody. And then they cut to them having dinner and telling each other the story of their breakup. I was like so moved. I was like, oh, right. He's always an asshole. She's always got her walls up, but they feel such real empathy for the other one.
Yeah.
Like when she says they broke up and he goes, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. He sounds really like sorry. He's not like, oh, good, I'll try to sleep with you. Oh, good, I'm going to get it. He's like, he's legit like, oh, I know what that feels like. And then when he goes, how's your marriage? He goes, not so good. We're getting divorced. He sounds really sad. And then she seems so genuinely concerned. It's a legit turn in their relationship. And it cuts right to the dinner. And I found myself so excited at that moment. I was like, oh, they're open to each other in a way they never were. I was like, oh yeah, this movie's fucking good. It's just like a legit relationship that's happening. Like, they didn't just change because the movie needed them to change. They each got their heart broken, so they're nicer to each other.
Yeah.
Totally. And you see her double down in that scene, right? Where she's like, I'm sorry, Harry. And then she goes, I'm really sorry. Right? Because it's like she has to be like
nice.
She has to underline it. And then when it's so crazy when you talk about that cut, because that cut is so meaningful and it's such a jump into intimacy, especially when I think of that cut, it's like she's like flushed when you cut, right? It's like she's like, it's like you can tell we've like jumped into an intimate moment because it's like she's in the restaurant and she's got like color in her cheeks and she is like sharing this very vulnerable story.
And I guess a lot of rom-coms is based on sexual chemistry. You're like, when are they going to grab each other and tumble over in each other's arms? Like in French Kiss, for example, when are they going to finally just go for it? But like in this movie, the go for it is when are they going to be friends to each other? Like when are they going to be nice? And that's it. Like this is the emotional falling over each other into bed. It's like, let's go to dinner and tell each other what we're really scared of.
Yeah.
It's like so in this movie of one-liners and like physical comedy, it's like just a sweet human moment. Another moment I love is when he is telling Bruno Kirby in the football stands about his divorce. It's such a funny scene, right? Like they're constantly doing the wave. But a little moment I noticed, like,
so good.
And I do tend to watch, just because I am a man, what are the male friendships like? Because there's very rarely like a good male friendship. Not that you need it or whatever, but like when he says, oh, I haven't told you the worst part. It's a lie. She's in love with somebody. He's like, how do you know? And he goes, I followed her. And Bruno goes, God, it's so humiliating. He goes, yeah, I know. And I'm like, it is humiliating. And that is what like a good guy friend would be. It's like, I feel, it's not like a hugging, I feel for you. It's just like, I am really listening to your story. And what you're telling me is that you are being pathetic and humiliated right now. And not in a mean way, just like, I don't know. I felt like that was a well-observed moment of two people really listening to each other. And I'm like, that's also Nora Ephron. Like we think of Nora Ephron as the best one-liners ever, because they are. But it's also, oh yeah, this is what friends do when they're picking each other up. Like
like he really tries it on.
Yeah, he's really understanding where he's at.
Yeah, and he's picking up subtext, right? Like Harry's not saying it's humiliating.
Exactly,
he's like, listen to my crazy tale, and the friend is just like, experiencing it with him, and it's not punching down. He's not like, how humiliating for you? Like, God, you're embarrassing to me. He's like, this is degrading.
Yeah, you're in a bad spot.
This is
degrading. Or even like, oh, Mr.
everyone.
Zero knew before you. Mr. Zero knew.
Yeah. Like he's like, like that is such a real reflection of a friendship. It's like, wait, you
don't have to explain yourself. I know the meaning of what you're telling me.
Exactly.
While all these great jokes are going on, like that scene is really like, I mean, so many scenes in the movie are these little tour de forces of comedic set pieces and also real human beings just acting like human beings regardless of what it means for the plot. I'm really impressed.
Yeah. I feel like it also reminds me of the double date scene at the restaurant.
Oh yeah, it's like such a perfect scene.
It's so perfect because also I think it's so human. Like it's like you love to be it, you hate to be around it when you're in an awkward group setting, and then two people start vibing. Like when all of a sudden it's like, oh my god, yeah, like, and it's and you know, it could be as stupid as like, you know, like, you like this band? Oh my god, I love this band, and all of a sudden it's like everyone else is not there anymore. And
but it's also,
it could be like,
it's such a good, and it's also, but it is comedically heightened. He's like, I read somewhere that restaurants are today's television movies. I wrote that. It's like, that is an insanely heightened way to vibe. I'm quoting an article and you wrote it. It's so both like true and funny.
Also, what's so funny about that scene too is like, they did do a good job setting each other's friends up. You think like, oh, you know, Meg Ryan should end up like, they both write for like the same paper. They're both journalists. They have so many common interests. And then it's like, oh no, but they want the wrong person is just so funny.
Or my favorite when she's like, you're both from Michigan. And they're like, where? And they're like, here. Okay.
Yeah. But that's another good example of both broad and specific. Like the comedy is played so broadly in a way that I love. like that little moment, just a 2-shot of them looking at each other. I forget what they say. Ann Arbor, Lansing. Great.
Yeah.
Turn back. I mean, like that is just a perfectly executed joke or whatever.
Yes.
But the specifics are good. And I mean, it also helps you have these incredible actors, right? Like Bruno Kirby and Carrie Fisher are like, they're great. Like they're always good.
Yes. And with Carrie Fisher, we're also seeing, I think, one of the earliest iterations of an archetype of the hot mess best friend.
Yeah,
right? Where
right,
she's like, she's like having an affair with the married man. It's like, haha, nobody gets it. She's got her sex Rolodex, with folded down married men. It's like such a good rich
so
character.
Funny.
Yeah. Here's the thing. We could talk about this film probably for an entire podcast. I mean, like we could dedicate an entire podcast to this film because it's so incredible.
I can tell you're trying to wrap up, but I got one more question I want to ask you too.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
What is the, because you guys have thought so much more about this than me. What's the bad side of this movie? I don't know, just for the fun of being fans of movies. What am I not appreciating? Because I'm dazzled by it. So like, what are the shortcomings that I'm maybe not seeing?
Yeah.
What are the hot takes or the things that teach me?
Here are the two things that I have always kind of been bothered by with this film. The first, and we brought this up in our earlier When Harry Met Sally episode, is that and Mia has a good, response to this about, you have to take films, within their context. But the central question of the film is a little archaic. Can men and women be friends? And that the answer to the central question is no, they can't. They need to have sex with each other. So that is a slight qualm, but a bigger qualm that I have is just with Harry Burns's character, and that he is almost constantly negging Sally Albright in the film. He's like, and she even calls him out on it. Like they'll be walking down New York Street. There are beautiful fall leaves falling in the background. And he goes like, oh, you're like much less uptight than you were before. Like you look good or something. And she's like, and she goes like, wow, you just did something that's both like an insult and a compliment, Harry. And he kind of is like constantly giving these little digs at her that is a big turnoff for me, where I'm like, Sally Albright could do better than Harry Burns. And if you look at Nora Ephron's life, for, her first couple of relationships were similar, where like she kind of got stuck with some people that weren't very good for her, kind for her, and like and yeah, so that always kind of bothers me a little bit, is that like Harry Burns's character puts down Sally Albright, but Sally Albright is so incredible that she just lets it roll off her back, and it's just like, I don't see that at all, and that's what's incredible about her. So that's a qualm I've had. Mia?
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. And to piggyback off that, and this is something that, because Allie and I have really processed our feelings with this movie, and I think we've gone back and forth, and I think we're in a place now where we can celebrate the triumphs of it, because we have really like sat with what we is hard to deal with about the film. And for me, it's always in the first vignette on the drive. I always hate to see a situation in which a man has ownership over sexuality and a woman does not. So in the beginning, when he's very critical of her sex, and and she is on the back foot and she's having to defend it to him, I feel like that is like a very culturally American thing that obviously we're seeing this in the 80s that like I grew up in, right? I feel like I grew up in a world where men's sexuality is very normalized, very easy to talk about, and women's sexuality is not. And it created like an unfair power imbalance when I was growing up, where it's like, if like where women can be pressed on this type of thing and they don't have a lot of ownership, or, even coming up in the improv scene when I first got to LA, right? It felt like penis things are very like neutral, and bringing up like penis jokes are very neutral. Bringing up anything about sort of like a woman's genitals joke wise was a little more uncomfortable. And now it's not. Now that's really changed. But so in that way, when I see him in the beginning challenge her on her sex. There's a way about French kiss that I'm okay with it because she pushes back and it's equal footed, right? They both have each other's number. But I also don't fault Rob Reiner nor Ephron for this because it's the world in which Nora Ephron came up in, right? She started off at Newsweek where women couldn't have the same jobs as men and she had to be like a clipper girl. Like that's the only job women could have. And she did have these relationships that were like, you know, pretty awful. If you read Heartburn, you're like, holy shit. And like, you know, they were discovering things, right? Like that, the orgasm scene in When Harry Met Sally comes from a real conversation between Ephron and Reiner where he didn't believe that women were faking orgasms. And they ended up, when they had this conversation, he ended up calling, obviously this would be crazy now, but he ended up calling the women in his office to come in to be like, is this real? And majority of them were like, yeah. So I also understand that like, they're sort of on that cusp of parsing through that sort of difficult cultural discussion. But to see it makes me sad for women and for Nora and for the world at that time and how it treated men and female, like male and female sexuality differently. But I process my feelings on it. And I also know that you have to appreciate things in their context and that was the reality and that they were doing their best to have a dialogue about it in this film.
Yeah.
And they did. They were having a topical dialogue about it that I bet was pretty edgy for the time. So
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm fascinated by it. I was on the Two Old Queens podcast talking about this movie. John Flynn and Mark Rennie, they watch movies and rate how gay they are through an insane system of points.
We love points.
And we all loved Harry Met Sally. We were talking about it, but it was scored so low. And we were like, oh, it's weird that this is like, there's like no gay people in this movie. No gay characters.
Yeah.
Like, and once you think about that, it's very noticeable. Like Manhattan, late 80s, yuppies, culturally progressive, literary and art scenes, and we don't even see a gay person. That's crazy. Yeah. Nobody mentions AIDS. Maybe nobody mentions AIDS because it's like, it's a bummer to mention AIDS. But when this movie came out, like you were talking about AIDS, like especially in New York and especially in like, in sort of like progressive literary aware circles.
Totally.
And it's strange. It's like, it's just something, it's not like anti-gay or whatever, but it's just sort of like a sign of the times that it's like, well, we're just not going to talk about a fifth of the people walking around or whatever. Like, I guess there's also no black people, right? It's also a pretty white movie.
Very white.
I mean, and to walk around New York and not see like multiculturalism, just not see it is strange.
Yeah.
They don't frame it up in a way where that's not the point. They're not, you know, I don't know. It's almost like watching a movie from the 40s or something like that.
No, you're so right. Well, you're hitting upon a massive negative trope that is like very universal in the genre. That's only being rectified like very recently, and even then, like not quickly enough. Which is a trope is having it be all white and all straight people, and beyond that, the genre is actually segregated. Where there are like white rom-coms and black rom-coms like don't get treated the same and are segregated and like set for different audiences.
And so don't get the same kind of marketing budget either.
Totally.
Like white rom-coms get way more of a marketing budget than black rom-coms do.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're hitting upon something that, yes, is very, very real and very shocking and of the genre and of this film for sure.
I don't know. But I love this movie.
Same. Yes. But I think it's great. I think it's great because, this has been such a positive discussion that it is absolutely important to be like, okay, great. And what is wrong with this film?
Yeah. And also just to pivot here. So we've been talking about this film a lot, but let's talk about Meg Ryan and her performance a lot. And let's give this movie some points to see.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah, let's dive back in. Mia, will you lead Will through our plethora of points, our myriad of points?
Meg Ryan is mean and feels bad about it. We can get 2 points per event of this.
I think it happens like 4 times.
4 times. We'll give that 8 points. We have got 2 points for if she works in print media.
She does.
1 point per brow crinkle.
10.
Yeah. Even mentioned in this film. 2 points per quirk.
Oh my God. Well, I guess there's not a high quantity. They're just played a lot. I'm going to say 5 quirks.
Great. So that's for 10 points. Iconic outfit.
Oh, Jesus. There's like 10. I mean, like
Yeah.
almost everything she wears in the movie is like a still in some diner.
Yeah.
I'll say, okay, but I'm going to not be crazy. I'm going to say there's 6.
6. Perfect. Walks with spunk.
4.
4. Great. Out of 5 points, her hair for each style.
5.
5. Great.
Because you got the time periods, it really helps.
It's
Yeah.
incredible. It's
It's
incredible.
Oh, I love her hair.
Yeah. Her humor on a scale of 1 to 10.
10.
10. Yeah. The chemistry between the leads on a scale of 1 to 10.
10.
10. Great. Amazing. And
I mean,
now we're getting in.
It's
go ahead.
mostly her. I think like Meg Ryan and anybody has a minimum chemistry of 6.
Yes.
Meg
Yes,
Ryan,
I
like, and
fully
whoever
agree.
you think is the most unlovable presence on a film screen to be like, I don't know, I can see it.
Yeah. No, 100%. Okay. So for all 3 of us, out of 10 points, the staying power of the film.
9.
Great quotability of the film out of 10.
10.
Yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
it's insanely quotable movie.
Yeah. Critical acclaim out of 10.
I'm going to back off a little bit
Mhm.
and say 8 because I think
Great.
people do. It's got the rom-com penalty, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Now it's time for all 3 of us to weigh in for the final points that will be awarded in the 2021 tournament of March Madness. Will, we'll start with you. Out of 10, rewatchability.
10.
10. Yep. I'm going to go ahead with 10 as well because you know how much I watch it. Allie?
I'm also going to go 10.
10. All right. Next category. If aliens came down to Earth and we had to show them one film to represent Meg Ryan's abilities and whatnot, what would we give this out of 10?
10.
10 for me as well. Ellie?
5. Just kidding. It's 10.
Oh my God. I hate how much those jokes get me. I never get
So stupid. Just want to make sure you guys are listening. Just want to
I love
add a little
it. I love
spice.
it. Okay, great. Out of 20, how proud do we think Meg Ryan would be of this film?
20.
Yep, 20 for me as well.
Oh my God. Oh, 20. She has so much to be proud of in this film. She holds her own as this is like one of her first films, and she holds her own against Billy Crystal, comedic icon of the time. Fucking 20.
I mean, she not only does an amazing job individually, right? She's perfect in every way, emotionally, verbally, physically. There's not a ton physical, but if I count facial expressions as physicality. But she creates a character. This is an archetype that she creates. She becomes the standard of this type of the like nervous, fidgety type A who needs to trust. This is it. Like, this is the blueprint for it. And she was 26, 27 when she did this. It vaulted her to commercial stardom permanently.
Yeah.
It's critically acclaimed. And what would she not be proud of? I mean, this is in every which way that you can be happy as an actress, or as an actor, she did it.
Yeah.
Critical,
Completely.
commercial, early. It's insane. I mean, it's like the front of the Titanic moment with Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet. Like, it's one of the orgasm scene is one of the movie moments. It's like in a montage of great comedic moments every single time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was her doing, she pitched that idea.
And she also is from her as a creative person. Yeah.
Right. Which is I mean, it can't get more special and iconic than that. Well, the final buzzer has rung. The points are in. The tournament is over with French Kiss, underdog, finishing with a very respectable score of 418 points.
Wow.
And the favorite, the GOAT, When Harry Met Sally, coming in at a perfect score of 500 points even. It's decided When Harry Met Sally is the winner of our inaugural March Madness Championship.
Wow.
I'm not surprised, but I am relieved.
I mean, the story of the tournament is still French Kiss, even though it didn't win. Like, what a Cinderella run for this movie.
Exactly. That's the front page news. And that's a movie that you literally cannot watch.
Yeah.
You physically cannot watch it somewhere.
And honestly, losing by only that much is, in a weird way, that's my locker room speech to that team. Who would have thought that it would have put up such a fight? But it really did. That's
the Ted Lasso moment of the tournament. And that's, wow. Will, first of all, thank you so much for the
pleasure.
reverence and the thoughtfulness that you gave this discussion that is so important to me and Allie. And it was such an amazing, what a fun game we had. You guys, this is sadly and unfortunately, that's a wrap on our March Magnus this year. Will, thank you for your sportsmanlike conduct and for being on the pod.
My pleasure.
Oh, it was a blast. And Will, do you have any social media, things to promote, or important romance advice for our listeners?
I would never deign to give anybody romance advice. I'll give some actually. You'll never regret being too nice. I'll say that. That's advice. You'll never always err that way, because years down the road you'll be glad you did it.
Yes. Wow, I love that.
Even if it looks a little uncool, and or unsexy or something. And then, yes, you plugged so many things that when you introduced me, thank you. But I guess I'll primarily plug a podcast I do called I Will Write Your Book, which is improvised, and friends of mine come on and play characters, and we improvise as people trying to write books for them. And it's fun. That's what I'd like to promote. I Will Write Your Book.
Amazing. And then where can they follow you on the socials anywhere?
Oh yeah, Twitter, Will Hines, WILLHINES, and then Instagram is Willie B Hines. I was Willie until my voice changed, and I harken back to those days on Instagram. And I plug all my various projects on those two platforms.
Oh, amazing. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. And thank you all for listening to the podcast. We have a new episode out every week. And remember to subscribe and rate. And we are brought to you by Campfire Media.
And P.S. I love rom-coms.
I love rom-coms.
P.S. I love rom-coms.
My name is Will Hines, and I am a ghostwriter, meaning I write other people's books for them. And I have a podcast called I Will Write Your Book, which are recordings of my meetings with my eccentric clients, such as a woman blocked after one sentence of a children's book about her dogs, a romance novelist who dislikes sex, and a man proud of having sampled everything in his local grocery store. This podcast has been described as fully improvised, played by some of the best comedians on the planet Earth. Hey, that's pretty good. That's I Will Write Your Book on Campfire Media.
Campfire.